So this is the story of how I went from broke and penniless in college to becoming a multi-millionaire on the internet by reading a book by a guy named Tim Ferriss, who wrote this book called The 4-Hour Work Week. So stay and listen, and I'm just going to tell you the raw, uncut version of how I made it. So hey, I'm John Crestani, and I'm fortunate to say that I'm a internet millionaire. I recently bought my dream home, which is a horse property here in Malibu, California, and saved up a bunch of money for retirement. I run a business that did $3.4 million last year. It all started with nothing, and I'm just gonna kind of tell the story here. It really all started back in 2008. I was about to go on a journey. I was taking a semester abroad in Thailand, and I was going to go out there and study for a little bit in college. Thailand's extremely cheap. I wanted to go to London, I wanted to go to Europe, but Thailand was actually the cheapest option. So I brought together a bunch of books to take with me, because at this point in my life, I felt kind of let down by college, because I thought, I was going to go to college and learn how to, apply myself in the world. But what I kind of quickly realized is, none of the things I was taught in college felt like they were applicable to real life. I felt like I wasn't going anywhere, and I felt the only way to really make money coming out of college was to just network yourself into the societies, the business society and all this stuff, and hope to get a job, which just sounded like torture to me, to have to go to work every single day for somebody else and, never have that freedom, which I really, aspired to have, the freedom to just be a person. And I was feeling really lost at this point in life, so I brought together a bunch of books. I brought about a dozen books that I hoped would kind of help me figure out what I wanted in life. And one of the books I brought along, I remember browsing the Barnes & Noble on the 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica. There used to be a Barnes & Noble there, at least. It was on 3rd and Wilshire. And I was in the self-help section, right? And I'm looking at these different books, and I saw this one title, just the edge of it, that said The 4-Hour Work Week. And I thought that sounded really cool, to be able to work 4 hours a week and have freedom. And it had this little kind of picture on the cover of this guy sitting in a hammock with a laptop. And inside there, I just browsed through the first couple pages, and it was about how to live the internet dream and work a few hours a week and make money and travel the world, or do whatever you want, spend time with your family. And so I said, okay, I'll bring this book along. It looks interesting. This was the book by Tim Ferriss, and this book would end up actually changing my entire life trajectory, which is really, really weird thinking back in hindsight. I read a lot of books just as I was kind of backpacking around Thailand. I visited a lot of countries. I went to Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. And at one point I was living on, it was about like $500 a month. It cost very little money to actually live in hostels, but it was great because I spent so much time talking with people and learning about, the world. And I remember I was reading this book. I was in the south of Thailand. I think it was in Koh Phangan, which is one of these islands. Beautiful, just it was gorgeous scenery. And I started reading this book. I'd read a number of other books, Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, all these things. But this book really stood out because it described, this man, Tim Ferriss, had done exactly what I wanted to do, which was he had created a business that ran from the internet, so he could be anywhere in the world he wanted to and learn skills and meet people and whatever he wanted, while his internet business just brought him in money day after day, week after week, and afforded him to live his life and be a person and do what he found most meaningful, which was, connecting with people and sports and, learning new skills and learning new languages is what he liked doing. And I thought that was really cool. And I said, and he had all these stories in this book, which was really powerful. He showed, dozens and dozens of different people, real stories that had done it. So it wasn't just him who had wrote this book, but he was kind of exposing this whole underground society of people who were running, real people who were running internet businesses from all different walks of life, doing all different things with their time or money. Some people were making millions of dollars a year. Some people were just making a few $1,000s a month, but they were able to leverage that few $1,000s a month to, live wherever they wanted because the money was coming in on the internet. And I said, oh my gosh. I remember reading that and I was just like blown away. And I said, all I wanted to do was like start my internet business, was like get this thing going. And I was so excited about that. When I got back home into the US in Los Angeles in 2009 it was, I just started doing everything I could to create a business. I do recall the first business that I started making real money with was eBay. I started selling just some random stuff on eBay. It was really cool just to post stuff on eBay and see it sell. And I was like, whoa. That was pretty mind-blowing for me because I remember making, in 1 week I made $400, which to me at the time was just a massive amount of money. I was only given like 14 to 16 hours per week at the movie theater I was working at. So, and that was like, minimum wage. So $400 was like more than what I made in a week of working at the movie theater. So I was like, this is awesome, And I started finding things that I could sell on eBay. I started particularly finding used information products that were in like niche areas. Namely, it was stuff in the PUA niche and different like self-help programs from like really specific but expensive stuff that there weren't a lot of listings for, like Tony Robbins DVDs and stuff like that, but they sold at a high price. Like the people were selling them at thousands of dollars. I remember one was called the Mystery Method. I was able to get a few of those, copies of those. They were really low quantity and they retailed for $2,000 and I was able to sell them and make, a nice profit. The problem with that business though was, it was really exciting because I saw my first $1,000 day on eBay and that was just like $1,000 in a day. And I don't even know if I was 20 yet, or maybe I just turned 20 or something like that. And that to me was just, I was like, wow, I've made it. And what was sad was the next day, PayPal actually shut down my account because you did all the processing through PayPal on eBay. And they thought there was some, I had set up my account incorrectly, or I'd done something, I didn't set everything up properly, and so it was just devastating. I kept trying to contact customer support to try to get my account back, but nothing, I couldn't get back to that same income. Where things went from there is I started a number of other businesses. I tried affiliate marketing, I started a online website to offer tutoring services, and all this other jazz. But I always had that bug, right? I had that bug. I wanted to make money online and travel the world. I knew that's what I wanted. And I tried business after business after business. And I had a full-time job between 2010 to 2012. I was working a full-time job. I remember in the beginning of 2010, I was actually selling my body for medical experiments. It's called medical guinea pig, or clinical trials is the proper name. And what was cool about that was, well, it's not good for your body because I was basically the human test subject for new drugs. But what was good about it, it gave me, I was making like $4,000 or $5,000 a month by doing medical experiments. So maybe that's why I'm a little crazy. I was using that to fund my entrepreneurial ventures. And that was kind of like the most desperate time in the beginning of 2010 because I was using this money from selling my body essentially for medical research to fund these businesses I was starting from my apartment. Nothing was working and it was just devastating. But I can still recall, no matter what, I knew I could do it, right? That book, The 4-Hour Workweek, it had put all of these different stories, it had put in my mind, I knew I could do it. I never blamed, like the people who gave me the information on how to start an eBay business or how to start a software business or a website business or affiliate marketing business. I never blamed the instructors of these different programs or these ebooks where I'd read it. I knew that I could make it happen. I just had to keep trying. So I never gave up hope on myself. But getting a job at the end of 2010 was a kind of a big blow personally, because I felt like a fish out of water, right? I felt like I'd sold myself short, but at the same time I needed money, and I wasn't willing to sell myself to medical experiments anymore. So that was kind of devastating, because I was hoping that, one of my businesses would just work. Now, what in hindsight, hindsight is 2020. In hindsight, what I did correctly was I got a job working for an internet marketing company. It was actually an SEO company called National Positions, not too far from here actually. It was in Agora Hills, and they had about 100 employees. And I remember my first job there was cold calling. I was a smile and dial. I was supposed to pick up the phone and convince people to buy marketing services from this company I was working for. And I actually really sucked at that. I was horrible at sales. I couldn't convince any. I could get in conversations with people after a while, but I couldn't close deals. I was really bad at that. And I ended up working in the PPC department because I'd started moonlighting, and helping the guys managing the pay-per-click accounts. That was something I'd been messing around with when I was running these businesses in college. I'd bought some Google ads and tried to market my tutoring website with the Google ads. So I knew something about it, and I started helping out the guys in that department because I could tell very quickly I was going to get fired from sales. I just wasn't, it was a commission job, and I just wasn't making the money. That morphed into, between 2010 and 12, I took over the entire department. I ended up managing almost everybody's accounts, just kind of for them. I wasn't even getting paid to manage all of their Google Ads accounts, but I was just helping out because I wanted to learn this skill. And I knew if I could be good at advertising online, I could do anything I wanted, and I could create, I was one step closer to creating an internet business. Now, between that period of time was probably some of the biggest learning years of my entire life. I became, I would say, a master at Google Ads, and I got really good at it, managing hundreds of accounts over this period of time, hundreds of individual businesses. I learned how to write ads that would resonate with customers in all sorts of different industries. I learned how to target my ads so they only showed to people who would be interested in buying the products or the services that the companies were offering. At the end of 2012, I started taking on some of my own clients. I realized, at this point in time, I was the director of all the pay-per-click advertising, and I was making $6,000 a month. That was pretty good money compared to some of my friends. I'd kind of moved up from making I think I was making like $1,500 a month when I was doing sales, when I was cold calling, to making $6,000 a month in my young 20s. It was in my early 20s. It was a big dramatic change for me, but I still wasn't. I still, at the end of the day, I still didn't have enough money to really live comfortably, or to save up anything. I had a nice apartment. I had a 2-bedroom apartment with a buddy of mine, but I still didn't have a nice car. I didn't have a house. I didn't have any savings whatsoever. And I realized quickly I could start supplementing my income by finding other businesses, because I had a little knowledge of sales and I was really good at managing advertising accounts. So I figured I could just reach out to some people and manage their advertising accounts. And I started doing that, and I started reaching out to people on Upwork, or elance.com was what it was called at the time, and doing it on a freelance basis. And I'd manage other people's accounts for $500 to $1,000 per month. And what that turned into was, I had $6,000 a month coming in, and I had an extra $4,000 a month coming in on the side. So that was when I started getting kind of like, I started making what I considered like real money, right? $10,000 a month was, in your early 20s was, it's starting to get to the point where you're doing all right, or I felt so at the time. Considering my age, I was pretty stoked. Now, it wasn't, what happened that took me to the next level was one of my clients said, hey, I said, hey, I could manage your advertising for you. And I met this guy at at actually a sort of like a mastermind, a marketing mastermind at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. It was Neil Strauss's secret society mastermind. Neil Strauss is the writer of some book on called I forget the name of the book, but something about it had to do with like relationships and picking up chicks or something like that. It's called The Game. Neil Strauss wrote the book The Game. So I was at his mastermind. I was invited by a friend of mine, and I met this guy who said, "Hey, I said, oh, hi, I'm John. Nice to meet you. I was getting a drink at a bar," and he said, "Oh, cool. What do you do?" And I said, I do Google Ads." And he said, "I need a guy to do Google Ads." And we worked out a deal. He didn't want to spend a lot of money, but he said, "How about this? I'll pay you." This guy was rich, and he had a mansion in the Hollywood Hills, and he said, "Look, I'll pay you a few $1,000s per month, or I'll give you 3%. I'll give you 3% commission on whatever deals my company closes, whatever revenue my company gets from the results of your advertising." And I said, "Cool." I was super excited because a few $1,000s a month was like a huge deal to me. Huge deal to me. What I didn't realize was in the second month of advertising for this company, that few $1,000s that I was making, like the base, and this was just a client. He didn't care if I was I could be anywhere. That few $1,000s became $25,000 per month. Then it became $30,000 per month. Then it became $50,000 per month, and it just kept going up all the way to where it kind of stayed between $50,000 to $75,000 per month for about 2 years. So what I'd inadvertently stepped into was a business model called affiliate marketing. That's where you get a commission for marketing somebody else's product. Now, where I started was really crazy because this client of mine, he paid all of the expenses for advertising, and he gave me a base amount of money just to manage his ads. So he paid the costs, and he paid for me to learn, spending his own money, and I would earn a commission. So it was a really good deal for me, but it ended up being an amazing deal for him because with my skills in advertising being what they were at the time, I was able to help his company grow from a $10 million a year company to a $50 million per year company. It grew very quickly, and he was able to buy, he actually ended up buying the housing lots on either side of his house in the Hollywood Hills, and he built his own like architectural masterpieces. He was a young guy too, but that changed my life. And since then, I realized affiliate marketing was so scalable. And since then, I've never stopped doing affiliate marketing. It was such an easy business to get into, and it's such an easy business to run completely by yourself and have that freedom that I'd read about in the 4-hour work week. That freedom that I'd read about became my life, and it was just through a long series of events 4 years later. 4 years it took me on a story arc, but in the back of my mind, I always knew that I could do it, and I never lost sight of my ultimate goal, even though there were so many ups and downs in the way. And I'm, at the point I am today, my business is doing, last month, if we did $50,000 per month in business, I'd be horrified. Last month, my business did $691,000 in sales, and a good portion of that is profit. And we bought a dream house here close by. I pinch myself because it's crazy to think that this all started from reading a book. It all started from browsing the bookshelves randomly in Barnes & Noble on the 3rd Street Promenade, and this little book cover stood out to me, The 4-Hour Work Week, and captured my imagination. So if you're watching this, I'm not saying this whole story to brag or whatever. I could care less what you think of me, but I guess I'm saying the story to kind of put it in context. You hear so much about how, when people are already successful, but I feel like you don't hear enough about when people were broke and penniless and what they did to go from broke and penniless to get where they are today. And if you come away with anything, I hope you come away with the fact that you can do it. And all of this craziness that you see, there are all these other gurus and, people marketing programs and all this sort of stuff. At the end of the day, the journey looks like this, okay? It's not a straight path. There's lots of business models. I am one of those info product guys, and I do teach one, method, but it's not the only method. There's so many ways you can become successful, but the biggest thing is keep that part of your imagination free. Follow through. You can do it. It might take a while to get there. It took me 4 years. I went through jobs, I went through all these different transitions. But at the end of the day, if you keep that spark alive, you can do anything. You can be anywhere. You can have anything you want. And I'm still on that journey today. My goals have changed, but I still know that everything's possible, and I'm happy for every day. If you enjoyed this story, this is kind of a raw story, a little bit of a different format from my other YouTube videos, but subscribe to my channel if you would like to see, I come out with more specific videos on different methods of, how I do marketing, which is called affiliate marketing. And I talk about other methods that you can make money online. Like this video if you enjoy this story, and please leave a comment below and let me know any questions that you have for me, or just any commentary on the story. Let me know, and I'll be active in the comments and respond to everyone. Thanks for watching.